What if a name doesn't mean a single thing? What if it means two things with big differences between them? And what if the bad of one taints the legacy of the other just because they share the same name? Well, my friend, NVIDIA is no stranger to screwing around with their naming schemes, and the GT 1030 is an unfortunate example. Let's take a look at it. This is the GT 1030. It's a low-end GPU from NVIDIA, replacing the Kepler-based GT 730, an often memed GPU. Being a 30-class card, many enthusiasts see the GT 1030 as nothing more than a display adapter. But actually, the performance that it gives off at 1080p low is fairly impressive, which we will talk about later. And once you get past the 730 lineage, it's actually a half-decent card. Based on NVIDIA's 14nm Pascal architecture, at the heart of the GT 1030 lies GP108, with 384 CUDA cores clocked at 1228 MHz base and 468 MHz boost, 2 GB of VRAM, all in a 30-watt power envelope. Its direct competitor is the famed RX 550 from AMD, where it valiantly trades blows with in performance for a little bit less price. So, given that the RX 550 has a pretty good reputation overall, why doesn't the GT 1030? Well, because this isn't the only GT 1030. Remember the 2 gigs of VRAM? Well, in this model, it's GDDR5 VRAM, with a 64-bit bus clocked at 3000 MHz, giving it around 48 GB per second of bandwidth. The other variant instead has DDR4 VRAM, with the same 64-bit bus but clocked at a measly 1050 MHz, resulting in around 17 GB per second of VRAM. That's a third of the GDDR5 variant, and there's other changes too. While it has the same number of CUDA cores as the GDDR5 variant, they are clocked slightly lower, and the TDP has also been knocked down from 30 to 20 watts. All of these changes seem minor, apart from the memory bandwidth one. So how much does it actually affect the performance? Ooh, yeah. That's about half. Given that the GT 1030 is already not a super powerful GPU, yikes. That leaves us with two questions. Why is the performance delta so big, and why did NVIDIA call it the same bloody card if they know that they have very different performance classes? GPUs, by their very nature, need fast access to the data that they need to render. This is the job of the graphics card's video memory, or VRAM. The faster it is, the faster the GPU can have access to the data, and the faster it can render the frames on the screen. And the faster the GPU renders, the faster the VRAM needs to be. Catch-22, right? At 48 gigabits per second, the GDDR5 on this GPU is just able to keep up with the GP108 as it renders the frames. Though given that there is a pretty big performance improvement after a simple memory OC, it's still fairly memory bottlenecked in some way. Replacing that with 17 gigabytes per second of DDR4 makes the bottlenecks obviously worse. On another note, actually, this is one of the reasons why dual-channel memory is extremely important for iGPUs, because they share the same bandwidth as the CPU's memory, blah, blah, blah. But that's a whole other separate note. So if they're quite clearly these different products, why did NVIDIA call this the GT 1030? Like, they're very different. Well, did you really have to ask? The thing is, the GT 1030 had actually quite a good reputation when it launched. So NVIDIA used the reputation to sell cheaper, inferior products for barely lower prices. And as you expect, the GT 1030 now evokes a pretty bad image, which is, in my opinion, fairly unfair for the GT 1030's GDDR5 variant. This was a pretty good GPU given the price and power, and could easily be OC'd for a bit more performance. But the DDR4 variant has ruined the name of what is an awesome low-end card. As for if I recommend the GT 1030 today, well, it's complicated. I have a deep dive review in the works that goes on in more detail about the GPU itself, so make sure you're subscribed so you see it, but it really just depends on the pricing and availability. I would lead most people to the AM4 APU route because it has a solid upgrade. AM4 literally has 4 generations of upgrade. You can pick one and then you can just jump into a proper CPU and then buy a GPU down the road. But for people who already have systems and just want to stick a GPU and they don't have a great second-hand market, hey, it's not the worst option out there. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, you can go ahead and click that button. If you didn't like it, you can also do that. I want to hear some discussion in the comments below about what you think about this. And if you have some experiences with the DDR4 variant, I would love to read about those. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I actually have a lot of those in the works right now. And yeah, have a great day.